Our speaker today, Mr. Paul Smith. Mr. Smith is actually from the CFA Institute. He is the Managing Director for Asia Pacific and also Global Head for Institutional Partnership. So Mr. Smith spent more than 30 years in the asset management industry. He has been in Hong Kong since 1996, I guess. So before he joined CFA Institute, he actually worked for the Bank of Bermuda and also Asia Alternative Asset Partners, in the heads of global heads and also chairmen and CEO. So Mr. Smith was educated in Oxford University with a master's degree in modern history. So without further ado, please join me to give a big welcome to Mr. Paul Smith.
Thank you, Karen. Good afternoon, everybody. It's very nice to be here. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, HKUST. Thank you, NYU Stern, for having me here. Can you all hear me? Do I? Yeah. Okay. I know. Okay. I mean, after 30 years, I think this is the mic for the tape. Yeah. Yeah.
So the technician said one more.
Oh, one more.
Yeah.
Okay. One more. No problem. But I was going to say one of the advantages of being my size is you've got a large voice, but you can drop it in there. Okay. I guess the other thing is after, I mean, I always, dressing a slightly younger audience than here, it's always a surprise to people to find someone who's actually been working in the asset management industry for 30 years and is still working in the asset management industry. In that, obviously, if I was any good at it, I would have been able to retire years ago. So you can make of that what you will. But it has been 30 years, man and boy. CFA Institute, quick commercial, most of you will know this. I apologize if I'm not very fluent today. I'm afraid I've been traveling a huge amount, so I've got some notes that I'll read out from. Normally I try not to talk from notes, but today I'm going to have to, I'm afraid. CFA, that's our mission statement, leads the investment profession globally, promoting the highest standards of ethics, education, and professional excellence. And the last 6 words there that are underlined for the ultimate benefit of society. And I'll come back to that because it is important. We're 120,000 investment professionals worldwide. For those of you who are members of the HKSFA, that's our local society here in Hong Kong of charter holders, of which we have about 6,000. And most of you will know us as the providers of the CFA program. But we're also a standard setter, remember. We have things like codes of conduct. We like to believe that we set the standards for the investment industry, but more importantly, that we're a thought leader in the investment industry as well. Since the global financial crisis, we've been working hard on this theme of trust in the financial services industry and trying to build back the trust that has been lost between ourselves as practitioners and our clients. And indeed, May, which we're still just about in, was declared putting investors first month, which was something that came out of the US that has actually got presidential sanction now, and is a whole month of events that our societies, our 142 societies around the world have been involved in. Not all of them by any means, but a large chunk of them. And I think here in Asia, about 9 of our societies in Asia, we have, I think, 18 in Asia today, put on investor first months, which were really about trying to reconnect the profession with investors and remember that we are nothing unless we put our investors' interests before our own. And it's that really that I just wanted to talk briefly about. We're very, very fond of calling ourselves a profession. And I don't think we spend enough time really trying to think about what that word means. What does it mean to be a professional? I think we all understand what that means when you refer to a doctor or possibly a lawyer or even my first profession, an accountant. And really, there are several things that mark out a professional, but the most important one is that society grants a professional a license to conduct their trade. And I think that's very important to remember, that a profession exists because society says that it should exist. And why does society say that? Because society feels that it needs to regulate that profession, which in turn for that regulation puts something back into society. And I think obviously what's gone wrong over arguably the last 20 years is that the connection between financial services professionals and society at large has broken down to the extent where we would say that regulation really has only one way to go, and that is to continuously tramline ourselves as professionals into an ever narrower and narrower field of influence and endeavor. And for those of us who've got slightly longer on the clock than I have to go in this profession, you know, that's a very worrying process, because we will not be able to maximize our earnings potential as individuals unless we are able to have a reasonable freedom of action within a regulatory environment. So trying to connect the investment industry back with society, I think, is absolutely in the interests of us all. So a large part of my talk is going to concentrate on that. There's relentless pressure on the investment industry today in terms of pressure on returns, pressure from regulators, as I've touched on, and pressure from our reputation. There's a need to comply with lots of virtual alphabet soup of regulation, IFMD, FATCA, Dodd-Frank, MIFD, etc. Costs are rising under that regulatory pressure as well. So the asset management industry is in transformation, particularly when you consider that we live in a low return world, which is not the friend of asset managers in general. And at the same time, large asset owners such as sovereign wealth funds, foundations, pension plans, etc., are beginning to dominate the investment industry as well. And that will be one of the 5 themes that I talk about today. And new investment models are beginning to emerge from some disruptive actors in this market as well. So these are really sort of difficult times to be an investment manager. However, at the same time, there's obviously here in Asia reason to be optimistic in terms of the growth of savings, both retail and institution as well. But I want us today, as I say, to think about these 5 themes and to think particularly about what those mean for the future of finance and how we can build a better investment industry going forward.